Today, Daniel Cole inspires thousands. People hear his words and see their own healing in them. He speaks with conviction. Eyes full of life, a light presence, but it carries weight, the weight of someone who's been to the bottom. In his videos, he talks about purpose, faith, and new beginnings, about learning to believe in yourself again and in God. People say, that guy was born for this. There's something different about him. And there is, but not what they think. Because just a year ago, Daniel Cole couldn't even get out of bed. His head was spinning with anxious, racing thoughts. His body ached, but test results came back normal. Messages piled up. Notifications too. But all he wanted was to disappear. No one saw the breakdown. Because it was silent. He knew how to smile, how to hide, how to lie with his eyes. But his soul knew the truth. Anxiety didn't scream anymore. It just suffocated. Faith wasn't rejected, just forgotten. One random night, sitting on the couch, holding a cold cup in his hand, he thought, if I vanished right now, would anyone actually notice? And then, almost by accident, he opened the Bible app on his phone. A random gesture, no hope, no faith. A forgotten notification popped up, a highlighted verse, a living memory trapped in ancient words. Even though I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, in that moment, he didn't get up. He didn't smile. He didn't have a vision. But something shifted, and that something was the beginning. 3 Psalms, 3 truths, 3 reality checks, 3 steps for life to start pulsing again. Today, he truly smiles. But back then, all he wanted was to stop feeling. This is the story of Daniel Cole, and maybe without even knowing it, it's your story too. Daniel Cole's downfall wasn't a crash. It was a slow burn, gradual, almost invisible, but constant, like a thread unraveling little by little, until it snaps without making a sound. At first, it was just exhaustion. He'd sleep late, wake up late, kept his phone on silent, kept his soul on mute. He started avoiding simple things, calling family, hanging out with friends, taking care of the house. Everything became a burden. Everything felt like an obligation. Coffee lost its taste. Music lost its sound. Life lost its rhythm. He kept smiling, of course. He was good at it, learned early how to hide pain behind performance. No one noticed, and honestly, he didn't want them to. At work, he was praised, held up as an example. A focused, smart, trustworthy guy, but inside, he felt like a fraud. His prayers went silent, at first from laziness, then from frustration, and eventually shame. God doesn't want to hear this again. Even I can't take it anymore. He swapped faith for distraction, personal growth for short videos, purpose for productivity. He thought he was doing okay, but he was slowly fading, gracefully. One night, after ignoring dozens of messages, Daniel sat on the couch, alone, TV on mute, lights dim, mind racing. He grabbed his phone out of habit, started scrolling without thinking, and then without meaning to, he opened the Bible app, a total autopilot move, almost like a glitch. But there it was. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. Psalm 1:1, he read it, read it again, and for the first time in months, he felt something. He started remembering all the stuff he'd put up with. Toxic advice disguised as help. Friendships built on sarcasm, vanity, and competition. All the little compromises he made just to fit in, to avoid disappointing people, to seem like the right guy. When did I start sitting at that table? In that moment, Daniel realized something. His fall didn't start when the pain became unbearable. It started when he picked the wrong place to sit, the wrong people to listen to, the wrong paths to walk. Psalm 1 didn't comfort him. It confronted him. And it hurt, but it was a living pain. A pain that whispered, you're still here. You can still come back. He didn't sleep well that night, but he went to bed with one clear thought. Someone deep inside him still wanted to fight. After that night, things didn't suddenly change. Daniel didn't turn into a different person overnight. He didn't wake up full of inspiration. He didn't run off to church the next morning. He still woke up late, still felt that tightness in his chest, still felt scared. But now he was listening. For the first time, he started to recognize the silence, not as emptiness, but as an invitation. He realized he'd been living on autopilot, doing things just to avoid thinking, filling up his schedule so he wouldn't have to face the mirror. If I stop, what am I going to hear inside me? He started writing, nothing poetic, just scattered words, sometimes tired, other times, why? And sometimes, I don't know who I am anymore. Little by little, he began to slow down, turned off the music in the car, looked up at the sky, and on a gray afternoon, walking past his mom's house, he saw something familiar, his childhood Bible. The cover was worn out, but the bookmark was still there. He opened it and found this. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. Daniel read it like someone finding an old photograph, with respect, with longing, with doubt. Does this still apply to me? He didn't get an answer, but he also didn't feel afraid. That phrase hit him like raw truth. Even though I walk, it didn't say if, it said when, because the valley is guaranteed. What changes is who you walk it with. Daniel started to realize. Maybe he never left the valley. Maybe he'd been in it for a long time. But up until now, he'd been trying to walk through it alone. He remembered specific moments. The time he pretended to be fine at dinner while everything inside him wanted to vanish. The day he was praised for a presentation and cried in the bathroom afterward. The nights he prayed silently, not to be heard, just to stay sane. Psalm 23 was a light switched on, not a miracle, but a flashlight, dim but real. And when everything is dark, even a little light can change everything. That week, Daniel started going on walks again. No earbuds, no rush, just steps. And one thought, if God is with me, then maybe I'm not lost, just in progress. With time, things started to change, slowly, quietly. The same way everything once fell apart. Daniel didn't go back to who he used to be. And honestly, that was the best part. Because deep down, he didn't want to go back. He wanted to be reborn with a new mind, a new rhythm, a new kind of faith. He started being more intentional about what he listened to, the videos he watched, the voices he allowed into his mind. He began talking less, listening more. He discovered he didn't need to fill every silence anymore, because now silence didn't hurt. Sometimes he'd catch himself smiling in the middle of the afternoon for no reason, just because his soul was finally breathing. One morning he opened the Bible again, not looking for anything in particular, just out of habit, his new habit, and he found this. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91:1. Daniel read it and paused, closed his eyes, took a deep breath. Dwells, not visits, not passes through in a rush. Dwells, rest. Not like someone giving up, but like someone who trusts. And right then, something clicked that changed everything. Strength isn't about fighting nonstop. It's about knowing where to rest. Psalm 91 didn't ask for effort. It asked for surrender. And that was new to him. Because his whole life, Daniel thought he had to prove himself to his boss, to his friends, to his family, to God. But now he understood God didn't want performance. He wanted presence. That night he prayed. For real. No script, no fancy words, just a whisper. Thank you for still being here, even when I wasn't. Daniel didn't become a whole new man that day. But something inside him stopped running. He started making plans again, started writing again, started dreaming again, but now with his feet on the ground and his soul at peace. Psalm 91 became home, a hiding place, a real refuge. And when you find that place, life starts to happen from the inside out. This is the story of Daniel Cole. But no, it's not just about him. It's about everyone who's ever gotten tired of being strong. Everyone who's ever had to wear a I'm fine mask just so others wouldn't worry. It's about people who've cried in the shower because it was the only place no one could see. About those who've smiled at work and thought about disappearing during the drive home. It's about people who stopped praying, not because they stopped believing in God, but because they started believing he didn't listen anymore. Daniel fell, but he didn't stay down. Because in the silence at rock bottom, he discovered he still had a voice, and that voice was still being heard. You don't have to wait until you're completely broken to change direction. You don't have to have it all figured out right now, and you definitely don't have to go through this alone. It was 3 Psalms, 3 whispers from God in the middle of pain's noise. Psalm 1 taught him to stop following the wrong voices. Psalm 23 taught him that the valley is part of the journey, but it's not the end. Psalm 91 taught him there's a shelter, and that you don't have to earn it, just step into it. Daniel didn't find the way out. He was found, and maybe you're being found right now too. Sometimes all we need is a little push, a phrase, a video, a forgotten verse in the middle of a screen, and maybe this moment is yours. If your soul is tired, rest. If your faith is weak, whisper. If your heart is broken, there's still time. You didn't fail. You just paused somewhere along the way, and God is still at the end of the road, waiting for you. Come back to the psalm. Come back to the hiding place. Come back to yourself. If this story touched something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might be walking through the same valley Daniel faced. And if you feel like you need more steps, more direction, more truth like this, hit subscribe. Not for the numbers, but to walk this path with us. Because the journey is long, but no one has to walk through the valley alone.